So the last time we met, my Raiders weren't doing so good. We were taking an L. I was mad about quarterback play. Really mad overall, right? Well, we get the win in week 2. There's some takeaways, of course, good and bad. So I plan to get into all that. Also plan to get into the other scores from around the league, at least in week 2. Get y'all right for week 3. And of course, let's get into some headlines as well. This is your man El Jamal. We're going to get into this. All right, so let's get into my Raiders report. And I'm going to get into the box score first before I get into my feelings and thoughts as a fan, and then my unbiased observations as an analyst. Would-be analyst. You know what I'm trying to get done here. Now, like I said, in the box score, of course, we get the W. 26-23 was the final score. If we look at Gardner Minshew, he played decently, 30 or 38 in terms of his passing, 276 yards. He would throw a touchdown and he would throw a pick. I'll get back to that in just a second. Zamir White, again for the second week in a row, a little bit, actually no, let's just be honest, MIA. 24 total yards from him. Alexander Madison would score on the ground, and again, I'll get back to that rushing game in just a little bit. We have Davante Adams here. He is making his presence known. I'm glad he's made his impact felt. 9 catches from him last week, 110 yards, and then of course the score to kind of I wouldn't say to seal the deal, but again, to get us back in that game. Daniel Carlson, he will be my MVP for this game, and I'm going to get into why. 4 for 4 in terms of the field goals. And then we look at defensively, we have Robert Spillane here, 10 total tackles from him. He would get a crucial interception that looks so vicious and so smooth. And then, of course, we have Max Crosby. So much is said about him. So much was said about him after week 1. But again, he did his job. Again, one of our stalwarts on his defense, a captain, and just an anchor. 2 sacks from him, and I can't be mad at that. Let's get into these takeaways though, and I'm gonna mix them kind of all together. I'm not gonna give you. Let's just get into it. Now, I'm still iffy on Gardner, guys. I feel like his stats were relatively the same. He had maybe more or less passing yards. I can't remember. Of course, his completion percentage was a tad bit higher, of course. And then on top of that, he still has the touchdown to interception, ratio, the 1-to-1, similar to last week. The difference in this week, though, or last week, the difference in week 1 and week 2 rather is we have a full team effort, so to speak. The defense was existent. We made plays, we made stops. Of course, we pressured outside of the sacks. We did pressure Lamar Jackson all day, and then of course we had special teams, and this is why I give Daniel Carlson the MVP of the game. 4 for 4. He accounted for 14 total points, and guess what? That led everybody. Okay, and so again, this goes back to one of my little critiques as a non-biased observer, analyst right now. The Raiders offense only put up 12 points, y'all. So I know we want to get back into, we have to say playoffs. Let's just take a win for what it is, okay? It's way too early. This is just week 2. We had a very bad game week 1 on multiple fronts. We had a better game week 2, or the team had a better game week 2. I want to keep myself out of this for a moment, okay? But if we're looking at it, technically speaking, the offense only scored 2 touchdowns, 12 points. Daniel Carlson, provided the majority of our points. Okay, let's keep it real. And that's why, again, it's kind of like I don't want this season to kind of be a Jekyll and Hyde situation. This is why I'm not super excited. I'm trying to make it as measured as possible, giving you guys an unbiased observation. Okay, guys. I know y'all took to, I know we as a fan base, and I know in my heart and my feelings, I wanted to jump, and I did. inside. You know, I was excited to see the team rally behind Minshew. I liked the the speech and the conversation. Again, we don't know the words that were said necessarily, but we saw that moment where, you know, Max Crosby is pretty much speaking life into Minshew, and I like to see things like that. The feelings get involved, but again, if we're taking the feelings out of it, taking the rose-colored shades off, and just looking at it for what it is, the football. We only scored 2 touchdowns with our offense. Daniel Carlson definitely came up clutch. And again, this is something that didn't happen in week 1. He only had 1 field goal opportunity, and he missed it. So again, this is part of that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of situation. 1 week, you know, we looked very bad. The next week, we looked like we were a coherent team. I liked seeing us competent, though. Again, as a fan, I was overjoyed. I was relieved. Again, I was able to kind of move on. You know, I can't say, even as a fan, you know, because again, I've been there, done this before. I've been, you know, I've seen wins like this happen as a fan of this team so many times. So it's just, for me, as a 33-year-old person, I'm going to keep it tempered, okay? I'm going to, you know, watch it and see how it goes. Again, Adams' presence, though, is essential to our wins. He was, you know, a really big key, you know, in just helping us out. Again, we mentioned the 9 catches, very crucial catches. The score itself was very crucial, you know, again, because let's be honest here. We have no running game for back-to-back weeks. It's been non-existent. Now, again, we were able to get the score from Alexander Mattison, but again, even he was, I think, held to -1 yard or maybe a yard. So again, very ugly on that note. And to really be a functional team, a really well, you know, a true playoff team, you had to be a little well-rounded, okay? Let's just be honest with ourselves. We can be excited on how Gardner Minshew can make throws on the run and make some throws under pressure. Don't get me wrong. Those are good things. We have to run the ball, though. Okay, and the offensive line played a little bit better, although we did give up our sacks. But again, that is a work in progress. I get it, you know, but again, that run game has to come alive at some point. We have to eat away clock. We have to keep the ball out of the more successful offenses. And, you know, that's what you have to do, really. Ball control, particularly when it looks like, don't get me wrong here, you know, Cam Newton threw this term out, you know, I felt like a little bit, you know, recklessly for certain people, this term game manager. But let's be real here. And again, we don't need a legend right now. We don't need Ken Stabler. We don't need Daryl LaMonica per se. We don't need those guys. We don't need a Plunkett. But again, let's be real here. You know, with Minshew being, you know, a game manager for what it's worth, we're gonna need a running game. Okay, let's just keep it real. And Zamir, you know, again, maybe this is offensive line, you know, situations, them trying to, you know, get it together. But at some point, Zamir is going to have to, you know, really pick up the pace, you know, and Madison, you know, maybe it looks like we have a committee thing going on right now. But it's definitely a hole there without Jacobs. Let's just be real here. And one takeaway about this defense, though, also, a critique. We have to, you know, be a little bit better at stopping the run. Again, Henry didn't gouge us in terms of yardage, you know, like Dobbins did, but he scored a couple times. That was points for them. You know, that made that game a little bit closer. There were a couple drives, particularly near the end, where he was kind of gassing us. We did get a little bit tired. Again, stopping the run is also going to be a little bit crucial because, you know, teams could, again, it's ball control football. These are things that we have to look out for. I'm not saying it was a terrible performance. I'm not saying it was a great performance, though. But with that being said, the job was done. The W, we got that. And for what it's worth, we definitely looked a lot better. So 2 thumbs up. I will say keep up the good work. So as far as this week's matchup is concerned, of course, we'll be taking on the Panthers, and it should be smooth sailing. You know, the Panthers are, you know, having difficult times of late. Offensively, you know, there's nothing there. They recently benched Bryce Young. They will be starting Andy Dalton. And not even just offensively, on the defense as well. They're 32nd in total defense. They're also giving up almost 40 points a game. This should be an opportunity for the Raiders to work out all the rest of their kinks on their offense, particularly running the ball. They should have a much more proficient. I would like to say this should be a blowout. Okay, I don't want them to come into this on some Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, where they were just looking for, they were prepared for Bryce Young, and then they just weren't prepared for Andy Dalton. I don't see that happening. Andy Dalton ain't that great no more, so we should be all right. Okay, let's just stay positive. Like I said, I'm expecting to see this offense work out the rest of its kinks. I'm expecting to see a revamped running game or a competent running game. That's what I would like to see in this game. We already know what we can get from the defense. We already know we're gonna pretty much get from Gardner Minshew. Let's see the offense. Let's also see the defense stop the run on that. I also mentioned that before. So a couple things I'd like to see. We should be seeing those things. Like I said, Carolina doesn't have much to offer. It ought to be a blowout. I'm thinking positively. Let's move on. Just a couple headlines to get into. We're going to start off with some Thursday night football. The Jets will get it done against the Patriots. 24-3 is the final score there. We have the Jets moving on to 2-1. The Patriots dropped to 1-2. It's been struggle fest for them. Jacoby Brissett was under center that night, 12 of 18, 98 yards. They will give up 7 sacks. They only had 139 total yards, 2 of 11 on third down. Like I said, they gave up the 7 sacks. So they looked really bad. Drake May played for a little bit. I don't know what to make of it. Garbage time. I'm not going to make any type of, takeaways from that one. But anyways, for the Jets, A-Rob will go 27-35, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns. Is he back? I think he had a solid performance. I don't know if he's going to get to this high echelon or whatever productivity over the course of this season. I mean, he had a solid game. I'm not going to ride his nuts because he had a decent game. Breece Hall would have 54 yards on the ground, a touchdown. He had a solid game there. Tyler Conklin would be the leading receiver for the Jets. 5 receptions, 93 yards. Allen Lazard and Garrett Wilson will bring in touchdown catches. And then on defense, we have Will McDonald here getting 2 sacks. So moving on to the other main topic I did want to touch upon before I let you guys go. Of course, in the injury report, I guess the biggest one to talk about, the elephant in the room, would be Tua Tagovailoa, again suffering yet another concussion. Does this put him at, if I'm not mistaken, this puts him at 3 now. Last week he pretty much ran basically headfirst into Damar Hamlin's chest on a scramble play. And according to the Dolphins, he should be out at least another. Well, he's on injury reserve. I think it would be 8 weeks max, something like that. And it happened, and of course everybody's talking about it. Tua is saying he does not want to retire. It doesn't seem like the Dolphins or his head coach McDaniels want to push him out the door. And that's all things that you could say that are positive. I don't know Tua enough to really make a real judgment call like that on what he should do. I don't know him like that. He's not a brother of mine. He's not a friend of mine. That's not to say to be negative. And that's not negative at all. I just don't know him. So I gotta say, if he says he's okay to play, he wants to still play, then that's okay. Now, with that being said, if hypothetically speaking, if I were to have known him, or if he was a family member of mine, an older brother, younger brother, whatever have you, a cousin, the conversation, or a best friend even, the conversation might be a little bit different. And the only reason why I say that it would be a little bit different, because in that regard, because there is the potential of unending yourself through these things. Okay, so that's a very serious thing, particularly if they're not fully healed. Not to say that this 8-week period or however long he's going to be out won't be enough, but again, when you keep repeating those traumas, it makes it very harder for the last one to heal as well. They don't tell you this part. That part is not always mentioned as well. If I'm not mistaken, they get very harder to heal over time as well. The more frequently they are and the more catastrophic they tend to be. So if in a hypothetical situation, had I known him like that, I would probably say, hey bro, really think on it this time. I don't know. I'd have been a little bit doubtful, but I don't know him, so I have to remove that aspect of it. If he feels like he wants to play this is his destiny to do this, then I just don't want nothing serious to happen to him. I think about the season any given Sunday. So my best wishes go out to him either way, and it's going to be interesting to see though on a football when we look at it, not for him, but we look at his team now, just trying to find that replacement and keeping them, I guess, competitive in their division right now, because even with him they were looking like they were kind of iffy maybe. It looked like but this is again, there's a lot more competitive teams this year, at least in their division. Now they got to deal with a revamped Jets team, so it's going to be a little bit harder, but as far as his injury, as far as his health, that should be the main priority. And at this point, and I think he's made. It's not about the money. I'm not here to pocket watch. Forget all that. At the end of the day, it is on him. So he made that decision. I will wish him the best, because at the end of the day, I know what the most serious symptom or the most serious end result could be. So I'm wishing him all the best. As far as this injury report is concerned, we do have Max Crosby. He is questionable for tomorrow. He's dealing with an ankle injury. We have Justin Herbert. He's listed as questionable as well, dealing with the same thing, an ankle injury. Debo, the Niners, they got some issues here. Debo is doubtful. He has some calf issues. Kittle, he's missed practice with a hamstring. Of course, this is all on top of CMC being on the injured reserve. Now they're saying up to 6 more weeks or more with Achilles tendonitis. So I'm not saying it's looking bad for them, but yeah, a lot of their help is gone. Jordan Love, we do have a little bit of an update here. He will be a game time decision, believe it or not. We have Josh Jacobs here. He's questionable. He's been limited in practice this week. So we have a few guys, a few major pieces that are going to be missing some significant time, or at least questionable. Isaiah Pacheco for the Chiefs. He's dealing with a fibula. He had surgery. He will be back in 6 to 8 weeks. So he's gone for a little while. Actually, the Chiefs got outside threat missing as well. Hollywood Brown, he's out with a shoulder injury. He's placed on IR. He will actually miss the rest of the regular season. So there you go, guys. A lot of injuries, a lot of serious things going on. Well, at least health-wise for players. I hope at least for Tua's situation, things work themselves out. But if you liked what you saw today, guys, please be sure to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll try to come back a little bit earlier in the week for week 4. And of course, I got to get into some college football as well. So please be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave comments. I'll be leaving the link for my Instagram in the description of the video. Hey, if anybody hasn't told you yet, I love you. Peace out. One love. I'll holler at you guys later.